Welcome to Van Life with Steve, and thank you for joining me for a visit to Chicago, the Windy City. Here's a view of the Chicago skyline from the Adler Planetarium. It's an amazing view and probably a fantastic spot to get a morning shot of the city as the sun rises. So as we pan right, here's a look at Lake Michigan. This is my second time seeing one of the Great Lakes. I saw Lake Erie when I was leaving Niagara Falls. There's the imposing Sears Tower. I know it's officially Willis Tower, but no one there calls it Willis Tower. 1,451 feet tall and over 1,700 feet tall with the antennas. The building in the foreground there is the Shed Aquarium, and this entire area is called the Museum Campus with Soldier Field, the Field Museum, Shed Aquarium, and the Adler Planetarium. It's a fantastic spot, and that combined with all the parks that are along the lakeshore, primarily Grant Park, absolutely spectacular place to visit. Here's a closer look at the Sears Tower, and Chicago, of course, is the birthplace of the skyscraper, although there are some people in St. Louis that may dispute that. Completed in 1973, the Sears Tower held the title of the world's tallest building for nearly 25 years. Now it is the 23rd tallest building in the world and the third tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, surpassed only by One World Trade Center and the Central Park Tower. And the innovative tube construction method used to construct the Sears Tower was subsequently used to construct the Burj Dubai, the current world's tallest building. As we look across the skyline, here to the left is Trump Tower, Chicago. In the middle is 2 Prudential, and in the building to the right of 2 Prudential, that is the Aon Center. Here's a closer look at the St. Regis, and just behind it you could barely see the John Hancock Center. I think it's not called that anymore, but that's what I would call it. As we pan for some views of Lake Michigan, if you're enjoying this content, I'd appreciate it so much if you'd give me a like, and if you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing and turn on the bell for notifications. Thank you so much. And let's continue with the video. Coming from Florida, it was kind of wild to see such a large body of water be this calm. So it's a very windy day. Again, you're in the Windy City. In Florida, the Atlantic side, the ocean is going to be quite a bit more rough than the Gulf side. But even compared to the Gulf side, Lake Michigan here is much, much calmer than I would say the Gulf of Mexico is on a good day. So here's a ringed bill gull. I believe that's what that is. And these guys were over here by the planetarium, and I decided to just see what I could do getting pictures of some of these birds. It's always a very challenging subject to photograph or film, and these guys were pretty photogenic, or maybe they were just looking for handouts because of all the tourists and people around. So we'll spend a couple minutes with these guys. Here's a pretty intense gull right here. Now the difference between the gray ones, these are all the same birds, it's just the ones that are brown, have the brown spots. Those are juvenile gulls, so they'll turn gray and white as they get older. But these guys were a lot of fun to photograph and really enjoyed being able to do that. So I rolled up on a Saturday and it was a Bears preseason game. Soldier Field's very interesting to check out. I talked to some tailgaters there. Here's a picture of the Adler Planetarium. Here's a statue that's outside the planetarium. I talked to a couple of tailgaters there, and they advised me to not ride the L train in Chicago. Here's another picture of the city skyline. And so I decided to walk up the lakeshore up to Grant Park. Here's Buckingham Fountain, which is one of the biggest fountains in the world. And I apologize, I don't know why I didn't get video of it, but that was a really cool thing to see. I believe there are about 2 different wedding photo shoots around it. So I made my way up Michigan Avenue to the Art Institute of Chicago. They have these very famous lions out front, and what's notable about Art Institute of Chicago, well, there's many things, but that's where the American Gothic painting of the farmer and his wife is located. Here's Michigan Avenue, and you're looking at the start of the famous Route 66. You can see the L train there in the background. And here I'm walking along north up Michigan Avenue up to Millennium Park. My original plan with Chicago was to do something similar like I did in New York City, was to park at a commuter lot and take public transportation. But again, I was told by, someone who lives there, hey, you don't want to take the train. It's too dangerous right now. And I'll tell you a story here in just a minute. They also advised me, I parked at the marshalling yard, and they also advised me not to walk south of that location at all. As you see the entrance there, Millennium Park, they're actually doing security screening. They are wanding and checking people's bags. And the reason is they had a shooting up there. Here's the famous Cloud Gate, also known as the Bean, and it's pretty cool to see in person. I'll get closer to it here in just a sec, but really it amounts to a really big funhouse mirror, and I guess it just brings out the simple nature in humans that everybody wants to go see a distorted reflection of themselves. But it's really fun to get up under there and see how it bends your reflection. But as we continue to look here at the Cloud Gate, it shouldn't be too difficult to find my reflection. Basically, I ran across, there's a girl, and I guess she had visited a few months ago, and she was asking one of the security guards, hey, why are they wanding people? Why are they checking bags? And the guy was real evasive with his answer. And so there was the shooting. It wasn't too, maybe a week or two before I got there, one of the security guards at Millennium Park got on the train and he fell asleep and got off at the wrong exit, and he ended up getting robbed and murdered. And so that's like, strike 2 when I'm in the city, right? I'm like, this place is, maybe this place is a little bit more dangerous than New York City. But I did enjoy seeing the Cloud Gate. I've seen that in a lot of TV shows and movies. It would have been nice to have been a little less crowded, but hey, it's the weekend. What can you expect? Here's a look at like a performance stage they have, and I guess they have concerts. It's my understanding that there was going to be a concert that night, I believe, but the security screening would have happened anyway. And this is just further up north in Millennium Park. This whole section of Millennium Park and Grant Park, it was really nice, a very nice area. Here's the Millennium Monument, where you can see the names of all the founders of Millennium Park. These two fountains here are known as the Crown Fountain, and they spit on you, which was kind of funny. And people just were lining up to get spat on. So I decided to walk up to the loop and take in the river walk. And at this point, because I'm getting kind of not good vibes, I decided to put my camera up and just take pictures. There's the Chicago Theater. Here's you look at a section of the river walk with Trump Tower in the background. That was the Wrigley Building. Here's Tribune Tower. Here's another look at the Wrigley Building with the skyway there, and that's the gum company, I believe. So this is the southern portion of what they call the Magnificent Mile, and the buildings there are pretty nice. I do have to say that, so Chicago has 6 buildings that are 1,000 feet or taller, and New York has 16. And so being in Chicago, it just made me kind of appreciate just how unique New York City is when it comes to the density and just the number of buildings, because when it comes to skyscrapers, buildings over 500 feet, it's a similar ratio, meaning New York City has more than twice the amount of skyscrapers than even Chicago. There you can see the trusses in Tribune Tower. Neat thing about Tribune Towers, they have stones from like the Great Pyramid. They have stones from other buildings in other states. I tried, but I could not find Florida. There's a famous entrance to Tribune Tower, and they had kind of like a candy shop at one end of it. This is a better look at Trump Tower, and there'll be some various other shots here as I walk along the Chicago Riverwalk, which was super impressive. And in hindsight, I wish I would have taken some better video of it. But that really, when you talk about bar hopping or anything like that, I'm not big into that, but that was super impressive. That puts any other bar hopping place I've seen to shame. Here's an up close look at the Sears Tower. Kind of, it's an imposing building. This art piece there is known as the atmospheric wave wall. So I continued around till I found this building that's to the southwest of Sears Tower, and it has a map of the Chicago River on the one side of it, which is over 400 feet tall. And then I finished things up with my walking tour of Chicago with a visit to the Chicago Board of Trade. I trade futures contracts and stuff, so I had to go check that in person, and that would portray Wayne Tower in the Dark Knight film. So from there, and this is gonna further explain why I left early, is I decided to walk back to the marshalling yard where I parked from the Sears Tower, and that was a 4-mile walk, 10 o'clock at night in Chicago. And as you'll see here, I walked almost 15.5 miles in one day. It was actually over about 10 hours. So between the security guard getting murdered, being told not to ride public transportation, and the stress of walking back at night, I just decided that was all of Chicago I wanted to see. Cities, if they want people to visit, they need to work on their crime rate. And I got pretty lucky in that, for whatever reason, the marshalling yard parking meter, it didn't charge me. Normally, I think it's $16 for the first 16 hours, and it's $35 if you park overnight, but it didn't charge me, so I got to see all that for free. And so I decided, I'd seen enough of Chicago and decided to move on. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.